What's up? What's up?
What up?
What up? The magic number is going to be 3 today. Today we're going to talk about core. Those of you who are watching the recording, we always start first couple of minutes waiting for people to jump on and go live. Facebook sends out these notifications letting people know we're live. So if you want to skip forward, you can.
We like to record them.
Of course we do. Today we're going to talk about core. It's probably one of the most misunderstood parts of fitness. Let's see who we're going to get to jump on this mofo. Yeah, we are a little early. We're about a minute early. But either way, we don't care because we're going to put it in the archives and we will be good to Gizzo. First person meeting is going to be.
Let's see. I'm gonna go Casey Ruggiero.
Okay. I want to say Jen Ferguson's been hot
Yeah.
on Facebook
She's
Live.
all over Facebook. Like it.
Facebook Live.
Everybody must be eating their fajitas.
Is it Taco Tuesday?
Wednesday.
Taco Wednesday? Honestly, I forget what day it is now.
Wonton Wednesday.
Wuhan Wednesday. Wuhan star. I wish them. Ooh, we're gonna give this one more minute. We're gonna go into all of this. Today, my friends, it is not going to be a super long one. I think the core for us is super simple
Yes.
and basic for us to explain to y'all. Okay, let me see. How we gonna get up there?
Stuff.
All right. So, Joe, let's jump into it. So, the first thing we're going to talk about is the core. When most people think about the core, they think of abs. And when they think of its crunches, sit-ups, when we talk about the core, we're literally talking about everything from your trunk down to your hips. So if you were to draw a line, I mean, I would even consider your butt.
Yes.
We would consider your butt part of your core. So the butt to the rib cage and down. Now, there are shitload of muscles surrounding the core. I mean, there's your rectus spinae, there's your rectus abdominal, there's your pelvic floor, there's your diaphragm. There's all these muscles surrounding which do make up your core. And when we talk about the core is built for what, Joe?
Stability.
Stability.
That's all it is.
It's all about stability. So when you think of some of the motions that we don't love, and if you train with us, we don't love things which flex the spine. We necessarily don't like things that extend. We don't like things that do really side bending. If we got that.
Casey, I won.
Casey won.
Yes.
Now it's up. So when we talk about the core, we want you to understand is all these muscles, if you were to look at an anatomy chart, which we don't have right here, but just imagine this. Look at an anatomy chart. All these muscles are almost like patches. Boom, 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 boom. And what they're responsible for is stabilizing, keeping you super stiff. Now, if your core was designed specifically for crunching, you would have two huge hamstrings right here. Instead, if you were to look at a six-pack or someone with an eight-pack, there are all these pockets which are responsible for keeping you super stiff. So just keep that in mind when it comes to your core. We are always talking about stability.
Think of it as anti-movement.
Totally.
Anti-movement.
So saying that, when it comes to the movements that we think our core is responsible for, though your core can move you, it's really for anti-moving you. So for example, if you ever been to an old school gym, you might look over the corner and see a guy with a weight, doing this stuff. Actually, what we like to do, a better exercise than this motion would be what,
Right.
Joe?
Is actually keeping that heavy weight, staying nice and stiff, and walking.
Just walking.
Yep.
Now-
Suitcase carry.
So if I am carrying a heavy weight in this hand, think of what's happening. Naturally, my body, because of the nature of the weight, wants to pull me down.
Yes.
So everything in this side has to what? Boom! Stiffen up. Perfect. Now think of what happens when I hold a weight here and I do a walk. Because of the nature of the weight, it wants to pull me forward. So all these muscles keep me stiff and prevent me from flexing forward.
So for all you guys who've done a racked carry before, kind of with an adequate amount of weight, that is so much core going on.
And if you notice, that's why we do so many one-sided carries. Now let's take it down to the floor for a second. Let's just say I was doing back up here, a side plank. Now here, all these muscles here are preventing me from dipping, so they're stabilizing me. So in a lot of ways, a walking suitcase carry is almost like a plank
Yes.
standing up.
Yeah.
Totally.
Anti-side bend.
So the core is all about stability. All of us who like crunches and like the burn, expecting some sort of fat loss, clearly we know that doesn't happen. That comes from being in caloric deficit, consuming less calories than you burn. Getting into that fat burning zone doesn't exist. It's just about being consistently in a caloric deficit. So though we like the feeling of burn here, it doesn't melt away fat. Core training is really just about super stiffness, especially within the trunk to your rib cage, the glute to your rib cage. Now, a lot of you don't know this, but there's a lot of core training just in basic exercises, Joe,
Absolutely.
right?
Just basically like when we do a goblet squat, like Frank was saying, as you're coming down, you're keeping your back nice and flat and you're not rounding.
Joe, do that again, put your arms straight out. So just imagine if I was pushing the weight down and he was preventing me from doing it, everything that has to fire here in his upper back is what we're training. Now,
Tons of core there.
how many times have you heard us tell you, lunge forward, lean back, holding a weight at your side here, holding it in the front. Naturally, the weight wants to pull you forward. You're using your core to stabilize you.
Yes.
How about when we have you grab a kettlebell on one side and you lunge? Again, the weight wants to pull you down.
Yes.
Boom, you're working the other side.
We're tricking you. We're doing core as well as leg.
Always. How about a push-up, weighted push-up, Joe?
Oh my God.
A weighted push-up.
Weighted push-up, crazy amount of core stability. Try not to, as you're going down that push-up, weighted instead of,
If Joe's core and hips weren't firing, he would just drop down.
Right. So staying nice and straight with that load on your back fires that core up a ton.
Think of something, an inverted row. When you're hanging from the rings, if your hips and core weren't firing, your butt would drop to the floor. So that's core training too. Almost everything we do here, any body weight, weighted exercise, is core training. A one-arm press,
Yep. That's maybe one of the most.
so much core firing.
Same with when you're on your back on the bench, the single arm bench press. You're trying not to fall off the bench, basically. The anti-rotation, that is so much core. That's one of my favorite core exercises.
Those, here's a great core exercise, Joe. If you hold this for 1 second, we can do the belly presses. When I start to press out, the band wants to turn me. All the core musculature here, we call those anti-rotators, including my hips, are preventing me. The further I press up, this is all core training. Now, conventional thought would be, if you're a golfer, a baseball player, would be that this is great for your core. Believe it or not, my core is stiff. It's my hips and my T-spine
Yes.
which are moving. So this really isn't working your core. This is hip and torso.
Exactly.
That's what that is.
Like you'll notice that the best athletes in the world, when they're swinging or anything, that their core is staying exactly where it is. Everything else is moving. Like they're snapping their hips, a lot of power through the hips, upper body, but the core is kind of maintaining that stability throughout.
If you were to watch, I would say the best way to describe this, when we talk about super stability in the core, the more stable your core is, the more mobility the upper muscles, your upper back, and your hips, the muscles below, can
Yep.
move. If your body isn't stable through the core, you'll start stealing mobility from it, and that's where your backsides are. But if you ever watch a football game, I want you to watch an NFL linebacker. So they stand like this. You could just watch one NFL linebacker and watch their core. boom. They go, they stay, everything is moving, it's stiff here.
Right.
They're jumping there, but if you were to segment just their torso, it doesn't move. Upper back, legs, everything, hips move.
Yep.
The best athletes in the world have little or no movement in the core, but it looks like they do because they have so much stability that they can yield so much rotation from the upper and lower. So when you come here or you train yourself, when you're training the core, it's all about core stability and lack of movement from the torso. Now, is regular strength training, Joe, core training?
Yep.
Of course it is.
Absolutely.
So whether if you're squatting, if you're lunging heavy,
Push
if
up.
you're rowing heavy, hey, Joe, you have people do this exercise a lot.
Yep.
The one arm bent over row. Look at what's happening here. My torso without my core would fold over, but everything has to keep me super stiff.
Also, another great exercise, that's why we talk about it a lot, are chin-ups or pull-ups. I mean, that puts a ton on your core as you're doing them. Try not to extend your back. Try to keep everything nice and straight. Crazy. That, push-ups, loaded push-ups, front squats, deadlifts. I mean, you name
Right.
it. Everything.
Right, and the heavier the weight you grab, the more core demand there is. Because again, if it's a heavy weight, you have to produce more internal force, internal tension to create external force. So if you're doing a really heavy shoulder press and you're pressing over your head, just think your core just wants to fold. It just has to get stiffer and stiffer and stiffer.
And also, like the other thing we do a lot of are goblet squats and low hold squats, and you guys will realize that. I mean, we have some people that are pretty light, 120 pounds, that can do the beast for squats down here. You try to put the beast up here, different story. Why? So much demand on the core, it's just really, really tough. So the higher the weight here and in front of your body, the more core we're using.
Right, so every exercise you do here will have some core aspect training to it, yet we still add core specific exercises. And you want to know why we do that? Because you like it.
Yep.
You like the way it feels, it's an emotional exercise. But to be completely honest, if we were building from the ground up just a bare bones basic training exercise program for you, I don't think we would necessarily have core exercises built in. You're
Yeah.
right.
I agree. I think bang for buck, those other big exercises that use your whole body is definitely the way to go. But you like them, and
We
We
do
do
too.
too.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do too. We'll keep going. So, in a nutshell, when it comes to core training, forget the crunches, forget the side bends, forget some of y'all think grabbing a medicine ball, that's really not doing much for your core. Number one, it's not doing anything in terms of fat loss. More importantly, it's not doing anything to necessarily strengthen your core. It comes from core stability, which comes from great posture, which comes from lifting heavy weight, creating internal tension. Really, it's posture. I mean, shit, pushing a heavy sled, getting in this position, and driving that sled, that's core training.
absolutely.
Joe, favorite core exercise for you?
I would have to say, like specific core. Or
Yeah,
like, yeah, I would say the ab
Both.
wheel. Ab wheel for specific core exercise, and I would just say a front squat, whether it be barbell or 2 heavy kettlebells. Those are my 2 favorite core exercises. Actually,
So, yeah.
no, I do like walks though. Single arm,
Yeah.
single arm suitcase carry walks too. I feel those a ton. How about you?
Favorite specific core exercise for me is going to be a ghost row.
Okay.
So in a push-up position, just lifting that arm, thinking that your body just wants to drop. Everything has to keep you stiff, and I'm sure you guys feel that. My big bang for your buck, big rock exercise would be either a single leg elevated split squat with 1 kettlebell. So foot up on a bench or a pad, or it would just be a lunge, a split squat holding 1. Again, I feel that a lot in the opposite side. The weight wants to pull me down. I have to self-correct. So whether your foot's here or elevated, I personally love those. That's a huge bang for your buck. Grip, core, posture, single leg. There's a lot of nice stuff happening there.
What are your favorites, guys?
Yeah, what do you guys got?
What do you guys got?
Favorite core exercise? After what you heard, if you say crunches, I might do a flying elbow drop into the screen. What do we got here? What do you guys got? Any questions about core training?
Unless you're a UFC fighter or a boxer, I don't want to hear crunches.
One thing, Joe, what do you think about when people say, yeah, planks start to hurt my back? What's a good solution for that? What would you say to that person? Hi, April. Hey,
I
Jay.
would say we have to really reassess how you're doing your planks, and chances are you're probably not firing your glutes, and that is shutting off some of your core stabilizers, which in turn you're gonna dip your hips and your back's gonna hurt. So a lot of times with the wheel or planks or plank ups, it isn't necessarily that it's not your back, it's everything else that's just not firing.
Right.
And it's making your back do more work than it actually should. It should just be there. Everything else should be doing the work.
That's a great point, Joe. Almost any exercise, if you start to feel it in your back, it normally means something's not firing the way it should. It's probably your core, it could be your butt. That's any exercise.
I would say for core specific stuff, it's almost 100% the butt not firing.
Totally.
Obviously, that's such a big motor in your body that not firing that causes a lot of problems.
A lot of times, if you do a core specific exercise like an ab wheel, a ghost row, a renegade row, side plank, if you start to feel it in your back, chances are it's too difficult right now for your body to stabilize. Normally there's so much information, it's really hard. There's so much information going to your brain that something just goes, okay, dude, it shuts down. Whether your butt shuts off or your core shuts off. Usually we can find a pretty good modification so your body can activate the core and the butt. Then you'd be surprised of how after a couple sets, now that your body kind of has the right information, you can go right back to your toes. But it's always the case.
Right. Chances are, when we, like he was saying, when we're doing these ghost rows or planks even, or high planks, if you just elevate your hands a little bit, and you'll be able to do them a lot better and more efficiently. And from there, once you get good, you go a little bit lower, and then you hit the floor. So you can always start a little bit higher on a bench or a counter or something like that.
Normally what happens with core stability exercises is the less surface area there is, the more you start spreading out and reducing that surface, whether a long lever plank, whether it ab wheel on your toes, feet closer together. Once you start reducing that surface area, the more demand it is on your core and the harder it is. So just by increasing the surface, for example, wider feet going to your knees, wider hands coming up on a bench. Again, just think of what we're trying to do in terms of our goal, what the goal is. Let's get that core fired up. Let's get that core working. I could care less if you're doing a one-legged ab wheel. That doesn't impress me if you're not feeling it in your core. Some people you'll see in the gym, they'll have an ab wheel, their nose goes all the way to the ground. I can almost guarantee you their core's not firing. But you look over, you see someone going a few inches, boom, 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 boom. That's where we want it.
Sometimes less is more.
Less is more for the core. I think that's one of our sayings here forever. Less is more. Hey, Beth, what is up? Eileen, what is up? We're talking core training here. We're talking core training. An interesting thing about core training.
April, what's up?
April, core training becomes more easy to tap into the more mobility you have in your T-spine and your hips.
What's up, Katie?
What's up, Katie? So once we start opening up your T-spine and your hips, you'll be able to tap into a little more core stability too. It's pretty crazy how that works. If your hips are really tight, your upper back is really tight, your lower back is probably, and your core is used to stealing movement, and it's really not used to doing what it's supposed to do, which is stabilize. Okay, stabilize that spine. That's very true when it comes to lower back pain. If you were to think of your lower back, what it's actually supposed to do, it's just supposed to chill out right there. Yeah, there are muscles there, but it's really supposed to be a secondary mover. The hips, T-spine do all the movement, but your body's always going to get from point A to point B. It's going to get there at some level. And sometimes it's at the expense of your hips not moving or your upper back. And normally, when your lower back is yielding some of that movement, it's pain. It's painful.
No bueno.
No bueno. Katie Johnson, Sue Fox, what's up?
Fox, what is up?
Guys, if you missed this, we're just talking about core training. Core training, when we talk about your core muscles, are meant for stability. They're meant for anti-movement.
Yes.
Everything above and below, that's where the beautiful movement should come from. You watch any golfer, any baseball player, NBA player, all the movement comes from the limbs, the torso, and the hips, the legs, not the core. Core is meant to stabilize. a good analogy that I heard years ago. I think it was from Massive Joe when they talked about the boat, but also or the diving board.
Okay.
When you're talking about core stability, it's almost like a diving board. You want your core to be very stable, very stiff, almost like a diving board, so you can explode off it and get more strength and power. But just imagine if I went to a diving board at your parents' house or your house, and I loosened all the screws, not all the way, but enough so it was kind of wobbly, and you jumped off that diving board. When you get much power, when you get much strength, when you get much height, opposed to a really tight diving board. Think of that how it relates to core stability.
Yep.
All the screws need to be tight, therefore when you push, pull, jump, you get a lot more bounce.
Makes a lot of sense.
What was the boat one? I don't remember that one.
Shooting a cannon from a boat.
Oh yeah, same thing. Yeah, it's a good one. Same thing. Shoot a cannon from a boat. Yeah, or from the ground, bolted in. Well, which
Exactly.
one?
Which one would you choose?
Totally. Core stability. Oh my God, look at that light. I look like a ghost. I love it.
Questions, concerns?
What you guys got? Favorite core exercises?
Favorite core?
And I'll tell you guys, core specific exercises, especially planks, ghost rows, it's common that a lot of people will feel this in their back. So us giving you modifications is very, very common.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we do is very demanding on the core, honestly.
Right.
And if you're just new to working out, sometimes the best thing is just a basic plank.
Right.
To be honest with you, keep it simple until we can move on.
Keep it simple. Even like knee tucks. Think of what happens. It's not the actual tuck, it's the motion on the way out, which is really going to demand your core to stay stiff.
Yep.
There's a lot of cool things. Mountain climbers too. Think about the motion coming from your hips, and every time you lift a leg, your torso wants to. I mean, there's a lot of cool things and a lot of core training that we do that you don't even know you're doing. So when someone says to us, you know, what's the best core exercise we do here? It's always like yes,
Yeah.
everything. Or when someone says, hey, can we do some core? Yeah, well, every exercise is.
Right.
All right, my friend. So if you're jumping on now, you're jumping on a little late. I want you to go back and rewatch this video on core training.
A lot of good info.
A lot of
yeah.
good info, baby. No, I will upload this to Facebook too.
See you guys.
YouTube. Bye.